Every strike brings me closer to the next home run, Babe Ruth. And the Babe is correct. You have to keep swinging for the fences. That's what we do here every day at chartingwealth.com. 10 to 15 minutes, that is all we ask. If you don't have our book, I would very much encourage you to buy it. Charting Your Way to Wealth. It's a great way to help us here at the channel for all the free content that we put out on a daily basis, including the daily reviews that go out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And of course, right now you're listening to Monday's comprehensive review and forecast. Now, a great training video we have is Cutting Losses is the Key to Winning. I promise to offer it once again over the weekend. We just did it yesterday. And understanding the value of cutting losses when the trade does not work, when your practice trade is going south and is not going in the right direction, going ahead and presetting your loss limit and getting out, living to fight another day is extremely important. Profits are never a problem. Losses will kill you. Please tune into that video. If you've not subscribed at the website, go to chartingwealth.com and sign up. We would love to have you as one of our subscribers there. That list is never spammed, never shared with anyone else. Put in your name, email address, will get you going. If you haven't purchased our book, look for the link in the show notes. An autographed copy is awaiting you in our 13th printing. Just can't believe how many of these books we have printed. So we've got a copy for you. And also Patreon members. We have our Patreon question and answer live session coming up in November. I'll be getting emails out to you regarding that. If you would like to be a Patreon member, you can find a link in the show notes. Also, let's jump into these charts. Another up day for stocks. Gold also up. Bonds continue to go down. TBF is just rocketing to more and more profitability. If you don't know what that is, that's the inverse fund of TLT. It's a short fund of bonds. It goes up when bonds go down, and it's been going way, way up. So jump into the S&P 500 first. Trying its best to cross over, hasn't done it at the end of the week on the S&P 500. It's trying. Derivative oscillators up for the second week, second up candle. Not enough, though, to cross over going up on the weekly chart. Folks, what is that really telling us? When we look, we reached a higher high actually back in the month of September than we have so far this month. The market is just having a hard time going much higher than it has before. So what does this mean? Well, we'll continue to watch and see as it plays out. We go to the two-day chart. Of course, it continues to move up. And where we ended on Friday this is the first day of the latest two-day candle, ended with a high of 102.20, actually ended the day. The last was 302.20. I might have said 102. 302.20. Last was $300.80. Derivative oscillator gaining upward momentum. Price percent oscillator stayed at about the same level, heading up on the two-day chart. And first day of the latest candle is higher, just at the two-day trend line, just barely got up to that. That does show there's some weakening from where those prior candles were moving up. We go to the 4-hour chart. We can see that bouncing off the red signal line, slowly pulling away up in the morning, up again in the afternoon, like we said for the day, up 0.42%. Derivative oscillator gained a little momentum. Price percent oscillators a little greater than flat, I would call that. So waiting for stocks to sort themselves out on the S&P 500. The weekly is still down. The two-day is up. We don't have a trade. We go to the Qs. What are the Qs showing us? We did, my friends, have a crossover. We've already put it on the chart. Weekly vertical crossover on the Qs going up. Derivative oscillator gaining upward momentum for the second week. Two up candles, nice, decent up candles going higher in both the body and the wick. And we do have a confirmed weekly vertical crossover going up. So what does that mean? That's one of our biggest signals, and we do see that occurring. How strong is that? Well, it's actually crossed over, my friends. How many of you pulled the trigger at the end of the day around 355 on an up trade on the Qs? We'll see how that plays itself out over the course of this next week. We saw the 2-day chart crossover going up back on Wednesday, the 16th of October. And of course, we have watched as that 2-day trend line has weakened. Going to have to figure out a way to redraw that, and really can't connect 3 candles, just can't do it. So we'll make it, we'll just continue to do what we can. We'll keep it attached to the crossover line for the time being. Price movement is above that. Derivative oscillator gaining upward momentum. Price percent oscillator heading up quite nicely. Go to that 4-hour chart. What do we see there? Up in the morning, stronger up in the afternoon. Derivative oscillator gaining upward momentum. Price percent oscillator heading up. So again, we'll see how the market starts off on Monday. If you did not jump into your practice trade at 3:55, as we have started doing, 3:55 p.m. before the close of that weekly candle, then of course, I do want you to watch on Monday morning, if you're going to stay with our traditional way of jumping in, seeing how the market looks on Monday morning. You can always wait for a pullback on the 4-hour chart also. If you look around 10:30 after idiot hour, are the charts still tracking up? You might find a jumping in point then, or looking at that 4-hour candle on Monday afternoon after things close at noon, look for a jumping in point there also. But again, weekly vertical crossover going up on QQQ. Now we go to 20-year bonds down for the day again, right at 0.5%, 0.49%. We see our second week of decent down movement. We see that the weekly price percent oscillator is pulling away from the red signal line. Derivative oscillator gaining downward momentum. Go to the 2-day chart. The 2-day chart had flattened out, but then started moving down again. It is interesting. The low during this first day of this latest 2-day candle was 138.31. The prior low, 138.23. So we did get lower. That's good to see after we saw that doji, means indecision, tending up, but again, it is a doji, means lots of indecision. Derivative oscillator gaining downward momentum. Price percent oscillator still heading down at a decent angle. So again, still strong down movement there. 4-hour chart. It, of course, had crossed over going up back in the morning on Wednesday the 23rd. Peaked, it appears, on Thursday afternoon, and then down in the morning, down in the afternoon. And again, that's quite nice for those of you who are still playing TLT on a reverse. And of course, like we said, let me plug in for you TBF. That is the short fund of TLT. In other words, it goes in reverse. Look what it's been doing. It has been moving up throughout the course of the day. And in fact, you go back in time, you can see when we had that crossover going up, how much it has gone up. Jumping in point somewhere on this chart, somewhere around the 118.50 mark or so. I'm sorry, 18.50. All the way up to 19, let me see how high it went, 1939. So again, what they attempt to do always is track percentage-wise. Remember, these numbers, these shares are much less expensive than the TLT at $138.52. But the inverse fund attempts to mimic the percentage change. So I want you to practice trade those when you're able to do so. That's where we are on bonds. Now going to go to gold, up 0.23%. What are we seeing when we look at our weekly candle? Ended the week with a green spinning top. Pushing through the 2-day and the weekly trend lines means indecision tending up. It is a green open box candle. So again, that does show up movement throughout the course of the week. Price percent oscillators lost a little bit of its downward angle. Derivative oscillator is still negative. We go from the weekly to the 2-day. What do we see there? Still don't have a crossover going up, going into the second up candle, just the first day of this latest 2-day candle, but it is a decent size up candle after gold sort of bottomed out back on the 30th of September. Sort of slid sideways since then, tending up, but still not going up as high as gold dropped on Monday, the 30th of September. So we'll continue to keep an eye on things. Just remember that the weekly and the 2-day are still in confirmed down moves on gold. We see that 4-hour chart up in the morning, pulling back in the afternoon. Again, ended up only 0.23%. Derivative oscillator heading up, price percent oscillator heading up. Are we going to see this thing reverse and head down while the 2-day and the weekly are primed for us to jump in on a down move on that 4-hour chart? Don't know. We can see that volatility's increased a little bit because those Bollinger Bands have moved further apart. Remember, the further apart Bollinger Bands are, the more volatility. When they start to reduce, because that's all Bollinger Bands are volatility bands, it means less volatility. So pay attention to those. They just help you see how volatile the market is in a certain stock or ETF. So pay attention to those things. And again, folks, I want you to get that great training. Go to chartingwealth.com, sign up. We will get it out to you. I know that you will love it. It's called Cutting Losses is the Key to Winning. We so appreciate you being with us. Again, support us, buy the book. 13th printing, autographed copies available for you. If you happen to live overseas, you can't use Squared Up for some reason. That clearing service doesn't clear foreign credit cards. But if you'll email us, cw@chartingwealth.com, I will send you a PayPal invoice. Pay that. We'll send your book to you wherever you are in the world. And Patreon members, thank you again for all your support. You want to be a Patreon member? Check out the link there. Learn more about Patreon membership and all the benefits we have for folks who help us out that extra bit. Folks, that's where we are. Hope that you are doing great. We always love to hear from you. Please be sure to subscribe at YouTube and also at our website for our daily and weekly reviews. Remember, weekly vertical crossover in effect on the Nasdaq 100 QQQ is the ETF. God bless.